kick me through the door rather than see me hesitate and fiddle-faddle. He was a great influence, and through him I met a woman called Mrs. McCarran. Remarkable lady. Her husband and sons were all killed in the 16 Rebellion in Ireland. And she ran a boarding house in the north of England for Irishmen who came over. And Daddy, when he came over first, stayed with her. And she used to teach me the old Irish songs and tell me about Brian Boru and everything, which gave me a fascination for this kind of, well, romanticism, if you like. But she put me on the path of poetry, anyhow. I love words. She gave me an interest in a kind of a quality of life, a certain savour, a smell of something I can always recognise. Nothing could ever be direct and simple with her. It was always a 3-act play, everything she did. And remember once there was a terrible charred old spoon in her house. I said, "Where did this come from?" I was only a baby, I was 6, 7, I can remember it so vividly. It's one of the few childhood memories I've got. She said, "Oh, that was from Tutankhamun's tomb." I remember it. And I was fascinated by this spoon. I used to arrive there every day and say, "Can I see Tutankhamun's spoon?" And she'd give me Tutankhamun's spoon. And one day I broke it. I can remember hiding it. I was so scared that I'd ruin the treasure. And I hid it underneath pieces of paper behind a cupboard. And I didn't go back to the house for a year. This is a terrible guilt thing. And still to this day we go in, and she's still got the 2 bits of the spoon, and I still ask for Tutankhamun's spoon. But she gave me, a sort of vividness, which has been a great standby for me, and an interest. Then, as I got older, I have a great friend, a Catholic priest, Father Leo Welsh, who really interested me in theatre, acting anyhow. I was a 12-year-old, and I put me under his wing a great deal, educated me. In fact, he did educate me. Told me what to read, what not to read. Well, not what to read anything. In fact, he told me how to read. We used to make films and did plays. And he was himself a university actor, and mad about the theatre. And of course, being now a Catholic priest, he can't go anymore. He was a wonderful man, tall, 6'3", very handsome man, big, laughing Irishman. And then Mr. Oliver, who was then the assistant editor of the Yorkshire Post, literary editor and art critic, whose son, Patrick, I described earlier on, he was a very gentle, charming man. That strange thing you find in good provincial journalism. Courtesy, grace, someone who really cares and considers. And he let me review books for him. And then a man called Carlyle, who was my art editor, was a dear old grumpy, typical heavy woolen journalist. He was another great influence and helped tiny, stocky little Lincolnshireman with pebble spectacles. He, again, helped to fashion and shape, I'm sure, just by kicking me in the bottom at the right times. Then RADA. Any drama school to me is a bore, because there's only one way to act, is to act, as you know. And you can go to voice lessons or movement lessons anywhere. But if you're lucky, you'll meet some person who can stimulate you, advise you, who awaken a kind of interest. And I met one, Hugh Miller, at RADA. I remember playing a small part once in a play. It was the first time I met him. I thought I was doing it rather well, and he was just sitting in front of me, nodding his head, saying, "Bad acting, bad acting." It was like a knell of doom. And I said, "Why?" And he told me why. It took about 20 minutes. And from then on, I still have him with me now. In fact, I have a letter from him in my pocket from America. He's doing a lecture tour of America. And I never, ever do a part without consulting Hugh. He's a technician. He's a great technician and a wonderful man, and a man who passionately believes in his work and the theatre. And then, I suppose, the great influence in my theatre life, I know, is Wilfrid Lawson. I think he is the greatest actor I've ever seen. He's also got the most brilliant theatre mind I've ever encountered. And he's also a lovely old stick. He's a darling. And he's taught me things. He goes in roundabout ways to do it, rambling ways. But by watching him, by talking to him, by being a friend of his, I've learned a great deal, I think, from Wilfred. And he cares about it so much. And he knows more about drama than anybody I've ever met. And Peterkins, he calls me. Peterkins. Those are the ones that come to mind top, you know.
Do you like the modern theatre as it is emerging now?
Very healthy, very vital, very alive. Yes, I like it very much.
You would like to work in that sort of theatre?
I like good theatre. That's all.
I mean, what is called the kitchen sink?
If it's good kitchen sink, it'll do for me. If it's good army farce, it'll do for me. If it's good verse plays about someone's tomb, it'll do for me.
Well, tell me about filming now. Have you done films?
I have, yes. Done a couple.
In the film, for instance, do you think that the director is perhaps more important than he is in the theatre?
Technically, yes, obviously. I mean, one's to a great extent totally in the hands of technicians in pictures. Nevertheless, now with the birth of the widescreen, I mean, no one's interested anymore in fancy cutting and montage and all the sort of Hollywood ghastly schmear that's been going on for years and years and years. Cut to reactions, you know, all these terrible bits. But you'll notice now the trend is to stick a camera in front of some actors and they get on with the very good scripts.
So it's become really more like the theatre again?
It's done, well, the full circle. It's got over its sort of flapper stage.
What films have you made up to now?
I made Kidnapped, which was my first picture, where I played a tiny part, playing the bagpipes. Actually, that's a funny thing. I was in an office with Robert Louis Stevenson's, whatever he is, grandson or nephew, discussing another picture. And he said that he was rather stuck. He wanted someone who was very tall, who could play the bagpipes for a little scene in Kidnapped. Well, I play the bagpipes, strangely enough. I thought, well, I play the bagpipes, so I did the picture.
Is that all you did in the picture?
No, there's a scene where Peter Finch, we're about to cut each other's throats, and then someone says, oh, don't cut each other's throats, have a bagpipe competition. So we have a bagpipe competition to see who can play the pipes best.
And you're about to embark on the really big thing.
About Lawrence? To make. Oh, well, this is another voyage. This is real. I mean, for an actor, this is unbelievably marvelous. It's wonderful.
Did you know anything about Lawrence before this?
Superficially, a great deal, yes. I didn't dig underneath his skin at all.
And are you digging now?
Yes, a great deal. I've got lots and lots of words I've read. And they're slowly becoming flesh.
You've met friends of his? And
I've met friends. I spent the weekend with a man, Beaumont, who served with him as a ranker. Went through the whole Arab campaign with him. Fascinating man. And it's a wonderful thing because everyone I've spoken to about Lawrence, everyone has a totally different picture of him. Completely different picture. He was sort of, Lawrence, he was like a sort of hat rack. People could hang any hat they wanted on him. I mean, he could fill in gaps in themselves or they could project anything onto him. He caught one's imagination.
Does the film cover the whole of his life?
No, it covers Lawrence of Arabia.
Not aircraftsman?
No,
Sean
not
Ross.
at all, not at all. It starts with him arriving as a rather cheeky 27-year-old in Cairo and finishes in Damascus when he left.
You have some other project, haven't you, now also with Ezra Pound? What is that?
I have an idea. It's still an idea. There's nothing on paper as yet, which is my baby. Is to make a film about Henri Gaudé-Bresca, the sculptor. I've researched on him now for about 3 years. I've played him once in a play, which gave me the idea about him. There are only about 6 or 7 people alive now who knew him very well, and I have the cooperation of 4 of them who are fascinated. I want to make a film about waste, and he is the word. That's my idea.